Charlamagne was being interviewed, and he said he thinks that the Drake era has ended. He said, I don't know if he has another gear. He said, Drake has given us so much music that I don't know if he has another gear. We know Kendrick has another gear. He shows us that with every project. Drake has given us so much, I don't know if he has that another gear. So therefore, I'm not looking forward to anything. Let me ask y'all a question. Are we still in the Drake era? So I'll toss it around to y'all because I personally think, and I'll just say my answer first. I do not think the Drake era is over because he has crossover appeal and has crossover success. So everything that he does is not predicated on hip hop. So I do not think the Drake era as an artist is over. I just think it might take a shift. It might go in another direction. It's just my personal opinion because he has too many crossover records that work. Now, the last few joints he's put out, they haven't hit like they normally do. I still think he's going to be able to, dominate the charts, be in the clubs whenever that happens again. And I think his fan base is going to be around. So I don't think it's quite over yet. Hey, Diff, what are your thoughts on that, man? Is it over?
I honestly don't think it is, man. It just he's got a formula down. That did y'all hear echo?
Nope. Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, his formula is pretty much set in stone, and it's worked for him the past 10 years. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really see him slowing down. Even the song he has out now with Durk is all over the radio, with no club really in full effect right now, other than Atlanta and Florida, Miami, or whatnot. But I can kind of see people getting maybe a little bit tired of hearing Drake, but Drake is able to kind of morph and switch styles. Like you said, he can jump around to different genres and keep it moving. Now, being a dominant force may change, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he's one of those artists now, like, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. It's almost like with a Mike or a Prince, you know what I'm saying? Whenever they dropped, it didn't really matter. People were going to check for it. It didn't really need a whole lot of pub or anything like that. I mean, he's just at that level in his career now. And that's good for him. But I don't necessarily see him falling off. Maybe calling it the Drake era, saying that's over like that. I mean,
yeah.
I can kind of see that, but other than that, I don't really see him falling off, to be honest with you.
Because I'm hearing it's a Lil Baby. I'm hearing Lil Baby has stepped in and assumed that position. That's what I'm hearing.
I mean, it's too early to call that. I mean, you gotta give credit where credit is due. You got somebody that's been around 10 years strong. I mean, there's a lot of other artists you can put in the same conversation, and have they dominated the same way? Have they stayed on the radio? Have they stayed in rotation? So you can't really say that for him because he's only been around, what, 2 years, maybe 2-3 years
strong, probably 2 or 3 years strong.
Well, I mean, it's
no 2 or 3 years in the mainstream as a whole. I have to check. I know he's dropped a few tapes, but
it's a little premature.
It ain't like that. To your point,
though.
Okay, I could dig it. What you think, Jay Moore? Is it a rap? Is it will it look different? Or
not even close.
Not even close. Okay.
Not even close. Like I said, I have a different perspective. I've seen Drake dominate pretty much for the last 10 years. Radio, the club, the street. He's had Drake still is the guy that if he gets on your record, that record is going to be a single. And
it's going to work.
They showed something today to where, when they do all the statistics and wrap ups and like, oh, what was the number one this number one that? Drake is still the most streamed artist in overall. I mean, people say, oh, it's Little Baby's turn or Da Baby's turn or whoever. Like those people got a long way to go. Like Drake is like 10 summers strong.
Exactly.
Whether it be features, like last year he put out an album of his throwaways and it still was through the roof. I'm trying to even think of a time in my time working in the clubs where Drake didn't have something, whether it be a feature, whether it be one of his cuts,
got to go a long way back.
Young Money. Young Money's not even a thing anymore, but Drake is still a thing,
Right.
And so when and first of all, like, his new album's supposed to come out
this month.
In a couple months, if not this month. So like, for Charlamagne to say, "Oh, the Drake era is over," you might be calling it way too soon, because like if this album comes out and has a few bangers on it, like, and the thing is, Drake's songs come out and they stay in the club. Like I remember Back to Back, which was a diss song.
This record, yeah.
That record banged out for like a year, and people would sing along with it. I just don't think it's too early to call. Like if this next album comes out and it doesn't connect with the culture, or maybe I could see it. Someone saying like, that era is over. Because I can tell you when, Nicki's era was over. I can tell you when Wayne's era was over. But Drake's era is definitely not over.
I don't think so either. I still think there's some meat left on the bone there. Lone, I know you listen to a lot of Drake. What you think?
Yeah, he's still heavy in rotation.
Yes, sir.
I don't think so. I don't think it's over. And I don't. I feel like somebody would have to come and take his place, maybe.
Yeah.
Or and I don't feel like anybody. Well, or maybe nobody has to, but I don't feel like anybody has taken his place or has reached Drake's level since Drake. So, like, even if you think of like how big the Migos were for a few years, like, where are they right now? You know what I mean? Drake has kind of surpassed them. I think before Drake,
they're trying to get on a Baby song right now.
See, so. But I don't think the Baby or Lil Baby, I don't think they're I believe that was Terry's point. I don't believe that they have put in enough work to be on Drake's level. And regardless of how big they are right now, time will tell, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
But when you think of Drake, you think of Kanye West, you think of Jay-Z, you think of Lil Wayne in the 2000s. And those are really huge names in those eras. So.
Yeah.
Maybe it's starting to tail off. Maybe, but I haven't seen it. I haven't seen him slow down, I guess. Like, not in the sense of like, if he wants to drop something, it's going to be big. You know what I mean? So, and he hasn't had that record that's been like, wow, this is trash.
Yeah.
He's still there.
And more made the
He's
point
also
about
one of those artists too that you were anticipating his first release. Like, So Far Gone was technically a mixtape. He came from the mixtape era. So after that, when you knew he was grouped with Lil Wayne and Young Money and whatnot, people anticipated that release. So he's one of those artists. Generally, the artists that you anticipate the release from like that, and it goes on to be successful, whether it's in music or not, they tend to stay successful. I mean, when you think about it, think of like 50 Cent. He was one of those artists. Snoop Dogg was one of those artists. Who else? Kendrick Lamar. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Those type artists where their debut album was anticipated and lived up to that name generally don't fade, whether you mess with them musically or not. You know what I'm saying? It's just he definitely capitalized on his. I will say that, because a couple of people I named
Drake?
in there, Drake. Because whether you like every album that he's dropped or not, he stayed consistent. You can't really say he had a complete dud. There are some artists that had complete duds.
You could talk the crossover. I talk it all the time, but the boy got a pen when he need to have a pen. So I think that gives him, extends his life a little bit too, because he can easily, so many types of records that he does. It's not primarily just hip hop. Hip hop can be done with you, but you that versatile, man. You can slide into other avenues. I just think it's a little premature to talk that.
What about this question? Has there been another Drake caliber artist that has emerged since Drake? I mean, I would argue Kendrick, but has there been anybody else that has sustained it and kept it?
Kendrick's not as Kendrick.
J. Cole, maybe.
Kendrick,
not even close.
I don't think Kendrick or Drake I think Kendrick or Drake. I don't think Kendrick or J. Cole have been as big as Drake at any point.
Not as big. Definitely not as big. But as far as popularity, I would say they're probably closer in popularity than any of the other artists.
Okay.
I definitely think Cole's up there. I think Cole's up there. And I think Kendrick's higher than Cole, but
Definitely.
But I do think Drake does reach a completely different
thing. Drake he puts out music on a much more consistent basis. I mean, there's no denying that. You know, like I said, Drake has held you down for, like, you know, that used to be Jay-Z's thing, you know, held you down for 6 summers, man. Like, Drake has held you down since Best I Ever Had came out. He's had something popping in the summertime, you know, and that's not, look, this business is so fickle. He's done features for people whose careers have started, apexed, and are over with now. And he's still out here doing it, you know. And the crazy thing, when I heard Charlamagne say it, and the thing is, Charlamagne and I are both the same age, vastly different places as far as the media landscape, but you know, because he's through the stratosphere. But you know,
we moving up though. We moving.
For lack of a better term, he's not outside. You know, I you know, for somebody my age, I'm still outside way more than, you know, like Charlotte. You know, he's got 3 kids, a family, and, you know, a wife, a house, all these businesses. Like, he shouldn't be in the club all the time. You know, whether, you know, even to get paid, like, you know, he's getting money from so many other places. He don't have to do walkthrough, all that fly shit. But like, I still hear what moves the people. That's why when I say, okay, this isn't working, this artist is not as big as you think they are, like, I know exactly what I'm talking about. Lil Baby, don't get me wrong, Lil Baby, like, he's had a great year, and, you know, I've heard his voice over the last couple, maybe 2.5 years, maybe close to 3, you know, but it hasn't been what it is this year. He did have the biggest selling record this year, but, you know, I mean, this is a weird year to have the biggest selling, top gross anything. I mean, the biggest grossing movie was Bad Boys for Life. You know, I don't think anybody saw that. So it's just a weird year as far as numbers are concerned, you know, because I think a lot of people held on. A lot of people held on to material just because it's like, okay, we're not outside like that.
I think Kendrick has. I think Kendrick's been consistent. I think Kendrick's been as consistent since he dropped. And I think he's due to drop. But I think he's the only person that I can think of that could potentially be in that category.
Yeah, the world stops when Kendrick drops.
Kendrick is like, Kendrick reminds me of Outkast. Like, Outkast would, every time they drop, you didn't know which bag they were going to be in. You knew the quality level was going to be there. They took their time with their projects. Like, he reminds me of them because every time Outkast dropped, I remember being like, all right, what they going to do next? What direction are they going to go in now? You think about the Kid, Mad City, and then there was a left turn or To Pimp a Butterfly, and then he doubled back with Damn. So who knows what the next one is going to be like? So yeah, Kendrick is definitely up there, but that crossover pop, you know, that just kind of takes Drake that next half tier. So
if you've enjoyed this segment of the New Old Heads podcast, make sure to check out our live show every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/newoldheads. And if you'd like to join our Discord community, do so by going to nohchat.com for talks on hip-hop, sports, music, news, and everything else.